Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Real Chumps. We're talking about movies, feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Danny.
This week, we continue our discussion on superhero movies not based on comic books with the 2012 film Chronicle, directed by Josh Trank, screenplay by Max Landis, starring Dane DeHaan, Alex Russell, Michael B. Jordan.
Sorry, I just totally zoned out. I was thinking about something else. Before we jump into our movie today, we wanted to remind you to please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode.
To join in on that conversation, follow us on social at Real Chumps. And if at the end of the episode you've thoroughly enjoyed it, please leave us a review and share it with one friend, because it really does help us get discovered, because we really do pour a lot into these episodes, and we love to get it in front of more people.
Let's roll that intro. Question of the day. Question of the day. Yeah. Let me think of one.
I had one.
Okay.
Does this movie make you want to document more of your life?
Not really. No, I think, yeah, in some aspects. I'm thinking of like what I do on a regular basis. I'm just like, most of the time I'm just sitting down at my desk for work.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. But like this movie just made me like, sometimes I do video production for a living, and sometimes I don't record as much as I should. Mm-hmm. Part of it's because like, oh, what am I going to do with all the footage and storage? Yeah. But, and I do when we go do stuff, but sometimes I have to be reminded how much just filming, and I mean, we do this with our phones. So we still do it. We just do it with our phones. But there's something to be said about that handy cam feel of like documenting just for fun. And there's actually a huge like wave on YouTube where people will just buy an old handy cam and just like record stuff with it. And there's the handy cam, not like, our cameras, my cameras, right, mirrorless cameras, or even cinema cameras. I'm talking about the point and shoot handy dad cam. And not even like the really fancy ones, just like this ones you can get at freaking Best Buy. Having those cameras, there's something about making it being so easy, just to like people wanting to gravitate to that, and like, why are you filming? Oh, let me just talk to you or whatever. And I think this movie does it. Like, there's been many movies that have this like handycam feel.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, this one probably is some of the best.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited to talk about this then.
I'm not told once again. Marcel, any thoughts?
I'll be honest. Throughout this whole movie, I was just like, I hope Danny likes this. Or that thought, or I had the other thought of, I wonder what Danny thinks of like this kid. Just like obviously there's the found footage genre.
Yeah.
But like, I was just, yeah. And you don't share anything. We were gonna watch this together. We weren't able to.
Yeah, we weren't able to.
But
yeah. We're gonna get right into it.
If you found a hole on the ground and you hear a big thumping sound, would you jump in there and figure out what's going on?
No, but I'd probably be the person next to the person who is gonna jump in, and then I'm probably gonna follow.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not the one late. Like,
you're not the first one to jump in.
I probably wouldn't be the first one to jump in. Now, if someone fell in, I'd probably, like, I'm going to help out. But just to go spelunking. But if someone like makes the initiative, I'm like, okay, I'm following. Right? Yeah. I'm a little bit, when it comes to that, I'm probably a little bit more risk adverse. But if someone takes the leap and like, I'm following, I'll go with.
You'll go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's how I would do. I definitely, especially like if I saw the hole and I'm like, wow, that's a pretty unique looking, perfectly shaped hole there. Yeah. And then like the high pitch and the thump, thump, thump. I'm like, nah, man, I don't know about this. And if everyone's like, nah, let's not, we're all out. But if someone jumped in, I'm like, okay, fine. Whatever, let's do it.
I mean, I think it kind of depends. Like during high school, definitely I would have had somebody out there jumping in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they did a really good job with that hole.
The whole sequence.
That sequence was gnarly. Let's just jump into this movie.
Let's jump into it.
I think this is another movie, like 2 movies in a row of movies that I have not seen.
You have not seen this. So was this during your blip? No. 2012.
Yes.
2012?
It was during my blip.
That's why you hadn't seen it and didn't know about it.
I didn't even make that connection. Yeah, it was when everyone said the world was going to end.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's all. Like all I got during the blip, my blip, that especially during 2012, I was like, oh, the world's not gonna end. Hey, you gonna vote for Mitt Romney? Don't talk to me about your religion, but I want to know Mitt Romney's a pretty good dude.
Okay, so then that explains why you never heard about this.
Yeah,
This is your first time watching it.
I think I remember seeing. Maybe I was at like Walmart or something, and I remember seeing the poster slash the movie box. Like the DVD photo for this is three dudes that the main actors um up in the sky with the Seattle needle
Needle, yeah.
in the background, and it's like not memorable enough to like want to see what's happening. Like they're too small in my opinion.
Yeah.
That didn't fully catch my eye. So like, and then Chronicle, like what's going there, but phenomenal, bro. I'm really glad. I don't know if I liked it as much as I liked Unbreakable.
Right.
Obviously, Unbreakable was a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
Check out last week's episode if you haven't. But it's up there. In fact, I'm on this like. I'm so grateful that we decided to go with this theme. I'm like finding my love of superhero movies all over again.
Right? I think this is what I needed in life, because look, we haven't been shy about our feelings about like the landscape of like comic book movies this past 2-ish years,
Right?
Post Avengers, and I think what I've loved about these movies is just the focus on the character, like the character study with infusing elements of like superhero into it, right?
Not only like character, like, no, you're right, 100% character. Like, I mean, we talked about this last week with Unbreakable, but yet again, and I think I'm gonna say going on a limb that like there's something to prove with these movies that are not based off comic books to try to tell a good story.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is like the setting of standards of characters and how we see them grow. The empathy that we find with specific characters and the aversion we see to get other characters. So yeah, let's give me a synopsis of this movie, and then let's hop into a little bit of the characters.
Yeah. So 3 high school friends become friends. They gain telekinetic powers after finding a weird discovery underground, and then after finding this discovery, they gain the powers, and their lives kind of take a turn for the better at first, and then a turn for the worse. Yeah. Let's go with that.
All right. Yeah.
So I saw this movie when it came out, and I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters.
Oh, you did? What was that like?
I remember not many people being in theater. I did not see this opening night. I think I saw this like several weeks after. And I've always been one of those people who's like, oh, the found footage genre. I like it, but I think Cloverfield was the one that was like, oh, so much movement, right?
Too much.
And I didn't see Cloverfield in theaters. I saw it like at home on our screen, and like at the end of it, I was just like, whoa, great movie, but like that's a bit too much. And so I'm always like hesitant with the found footage just because of that in theaters. This one, I didn't feel it like that, like Cloverfield or a Blair Witch. I had a great time, and then I just remember coming out, I'm like, this is a freaking really good like superhero movie.
It is.
And like a superhero, but like also like a great take on like the origins of even like a villain, right? And you had the opportunity to make more of these and like bring back Andrew in some kind of form, but like it's a great just like, because we're following Andrew's point of view most of the time, right? And so it's a great take on, spoiler alert, on just a villain.
So I actually want to start there, like, because last week we talked about Elijah, right? And how, the movie starts with Elijah, right? This movie also starts with Andrew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dane DeHaan, phenomenal. I forget.
He's great.
He's great.
Yeah.
But not only that, but we have Michael Kelly. Michael Kelly has a track record
Of being the douche.
of being a individual who is up to no good.
Yeah.
Both on like the up to no good for good side and up to no good for bad side.
Mm-hmm.
But his voice and I think he's tackled into what he can do well as an actor. And the fact that like, you know, we open up with this found footage of him, I know Andrew rolling camera. I have a camera, and you immediately know that this is an unhappy home.
Yeah. Yeah. A side note, real quick. Did you also see Michael Kelly in Unbreakable last week?
Yes, I did. Yeah, he played
the doctor that.
Yeah. That told him about. In fact, you're right. This guy's been his filmography.
Yeah.
He's not like I don't know if he's probably been a leading man in several films.
Maybe.
But
I don't think I've seen him in a leading role.
I don't know either. But he's just there for that supporting role, dude.
Yeah, and he's great.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was actually a scene we didn't talk about, and I really wanted to talk about, but we're not there for. This is not Unbreakable Part 2.
When we have M. Night on the podcast.
M. Night, we're looking at you.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. We want to chat, man. You're amazing.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I love also the introduction of the characters. Right. We know this isn't a good home to be in. Right. That, and then as he gets picked up and he goes off with his cousin
Matt,
right? We're also introduced to Matt, and then we get glimpses of Steve, etc. But I just love that immediately we empathize with Andrew.
Yet again, we're looking at a mirror.
Yep.
You know, he's filming into a mirror. His dad's like, why is the door locked, right?
Is the door locked? Yeah.
We know, and then we follow him throughout the day. Not only that, but he's rocking a Canon XL1.
Okay.
Dude, this is a legendary camera, bro.
Is it?
Legendary. This camera was like one of the OG like first cameras that like Canon made that had interchangeable lenses. That just was great. There's actually various cameras that he ends up getting throughout this film. And there's also a Sony, I don't know if I think it's a Handycam line, but the girl Casey,
yeah,
Ashley Hinshaw, she's rocking a Sony cam. But the fact that he purchased money to get this camera is impressive for the home he is. I don't know what he's doing to get the money, but good on for him. And,
assuming that it's probably a used camera he got somewhere, right?
Debatable. I would say it probably was new.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is a camera that like came out around this time. And it's a phenomenal camera. Perhaps for many people, it is a camera they would love to buy just to have because they wish they had it when they were younger.
Oh, okay.
And then there's the later one. I think they might go to another Canon, but more like more of like a ones we see today. They're Handycam, but a little bit more professional. Not professional. Yeah. Any case, pretty great stuff. Just wanted to make a fun note for all the camera nerds out there. To loop back because I digress. Andrew's, we immediately empathize with him, especially after the end of the day of him. He's a loner. Even his cousin kind of is unsure about him.
Yeah.
It's almost if the feeling that I got was that like Matt is picking up Andrew because his mom is like, you need to make sure that you take care of this kid.
Yeah.
My brother's no good.
Mm-hmm.
And he just needs something there to be something stable because his mom's dying. Just be good to him.
It's him picking him up out of a request probably from family, right? There's no real that we later find out, right? That they were tied growing up. Then high school came and
they kind of went different ways.
Yeah, right. And we see that Matt he's gone into altruism and smoking weed and whatnot, right? And so like for Andrew, like he really is alone. And as we see him throughout the day, as he gets bullied, as he's eating lunch, and he just says, "This is where I eat lunch," and he just puts the camera up and unintentionally is recording the cheerleaders, and they come over and like, "Hey, don't record us. That's kind of creepy." Oh no, that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, he's alone, right? And again, I think the ability to, whether you're in high school or an adult or whatever, everyone at some point in their life is facing or has faced these feelings of being a loner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's so easy to connect with and empathize. No, maybe I haven't grown up in a home where I'm being abused by my dad like that, right? But like I know what it feels like to be alone and feel like you don't belong.
Yeah, 100%. I will say that Matt's introduction, I love the fact that he's like, what are you doing with that camera? Then he goes on to sing, oh, what's that song? Freak, I just lost it.
Bubbling, bubbling. Yeah.
Yeah, that like iconic, bro. Just like straight up iconic.
Early 2010s.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, that just brings straight nostalgia. They do have a fondness for each other that I think was really warranted for the rest of the film.
Yes.
You know? And not only that, but like I loved that we start with empathy with this character and we see his down, maybe not his the road to him, his journey of realizing that he of being twisted.
Yeah. Did you see the trailer at all?
I did not watch the trailer.
Okay. So
I was going to ask you this. Did they have a depiction? Was this depicted as a found footage film?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So in the trailer, we know that it's found footage, and we're also shown that like Andrew will
turn
bad.
Oh, that's a really missed.
I was gonna ask you about that. So you didn't see the trailer.
I didn't.
How was that experience of seeing this character, empathizing with him immediately, connecting with him, and then his fall?
Phenomenal. Okay, it was phenomenal. I think part of this was that like, I think I knew beginning into the middle the middle act.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Michael B. Jordan real quick because I think Michael B. Jordan's character, his introduction, Steve is Montgomery, is phenomenal. I mean, the fact we get a little bit, he's plastered all over to be student council or student president, and Matt brings him in as a buddy of his at this rave that he gets stuck to, and they find this hole. And they're just, they're drunk or high. And I love that he's like, well, I love the line of him saying, that's why I'm going to politics. I can't remember what the first part of the line was, but like this idea of like, he's confident in who he is.
Yeah.
What he wants to go do. And that he's not like dismissive of Andrew.
Right.
But that he is a person that understands what his strengths are and that he's like open to like new friendships, right? I mean, the whole sequence with them finding the weird space rock gem alien thing of some kind, right?
We'll speculate in a second.
Is definitely a pretty great intro to like getting a power.
Yeah.
I thought, and especially as a found footage depiction of it, I think is great because we then go to a sequence of them like, check this out. Which is a juxtaposition of like, we don't know what the heck happened. And then we get that next scene, right? There's a beauty in that. But to me, as Steve's character begins to try to connect with Andrew, and I think part of it is that like, we don't get this in the screenplay, but I just feel like if this was a traditional film, or even some, whatever, that we could see Steve trying to talk to Matt. What's the deal with Andrew, bro? And Matt depicting a little bit about the hardship that Andrew's going to, and Steve trying to help him feel safe.
I love the character of Steve. There's something that his sincerity in wanting to connect with Andrew, right? And we see more of the relationship between Steve and Andrew versus Steve and Matt.
Yeah.
Right? And we see, and of course Matt and Andrew, but Steve and Andrew we really focus on a lot. And I love there's those scenes later in the car where he's asking it like, so tell me about your dad, right? Like, what does he do? And he's telling us like, oh, he's a fighter. That's cool. It was cool, right? Now he just drinks. And for Steve to even also say like, I think my I think my mom's cheating on my dad.
Yeah.
And like she's never home. My dad's always sad and depressed. And then right before he cuts, he's like, don't tell anyone. And then it cuts, right?
Yeah.
I love that we're given this character that's not family, that is, and not necessarily like the cool popular kid. It could have been anyone, but like just this character that is sincerely interested in Andrew, and and it gives him the opportunity to open up to. And I think this is very crucial whenever you're doing any kind of a hero's journey story, right? A hero who, we see this with Luke, right? Who yearns for adventure, who yearns for more. Frodo, right? And you give him the opportunity through circumstances or people around him to decide who he's going to be. Is he going to take the path that leads him to be the hero, quote unquote, or the path that leads him to turmoil and pain and destruction, right? And Steve is that character that brings out the good in him, that brings out the path that'll put him on to be a hero. And it's not Matt. No. Matt is there as the cousin that's supportive and watching over him, but it really is Steve that helps him. And the death and that fight that they have, every time I forget that he dies. I'm just like, why?
I could see that. I could easily see that. We'll forget that. Or like that, like I'll know it, but then it happens and you're like, oh, dude, I forget.
Yeah.
That hits hard. It hits hard. And I think part of it is, it's like, because I think honestly, I don't know, but I could easily see Landis writing this screenplay and getting to the scene. And if, he's the writer director, right?
He's the writer. Josh Trank is the director.
Yeah, Josh Trank. So it could be that maybe he was. Oh, but Josh Trank is quoted as a writer.
As a story.
So maybe if Josh was the one directing, maybe they get to the scene, and he's like, he just can see in his head, this would be amazing in a found footage format, right? Because the void of it's as a person watching this unfold without full context would find greater impact with that death. And not only that, but like what you said is that like Matt isn't a character there. He becomes a hero, but he didn't want something great, but like things happen, and he's the one that says we need to set rules, right? Him trying to set these trying to set a boundary of some kind that I think that then pushes Andrew away, because he knows that he's unapproving, and that he's family, right? Like he's family. He understands what he's he to a degree knows that he's gone through a lot of stuff, and he'll quote unquote never understand.
Yeah.
Right. But then the baggage and the weight of Matt not knowing what happened between him and Steve just really causes such a thread that then thrusts Andrew back into not just loneliness, but isolation
and hatred.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hatred towards himself, hatred towards the situation, everything that happened. I just love Steve. Steve, the character of Steve,
No, that Michael B. Jordan.
Jordan's always
I would love to like sit down and have dinner with Michael B. Jordan. He seems like just like a cool dude. Everything,
Michael.
It's up for the pod. Just because, like, I mean, him taking this role that is a little bit more driven, like jovial, like in the sense of like being, him depicting a high school kid, but then also at the same time, being able to be serious and sincere and like genuineness, not only from the character but him as an actor, I think really depicts out. Matt, I think, struggled for me a little bit in some of those moments.
Yeah,
there are moments where he thoroughly shines, and other moments where like it lacks a little bit for me.
100%. You brought up something about the found footage aspect of it all. Something that I'd forgotten and really stood out is that, so found footage movies, genres, usually tend to have like an opening sequence where it says Blair Witch Project, perfect example, right? Starts out dark and it's, have you seen Blair Witch?
Yes, it's been many years. Too much that I don't remember. I thought I've only watched it once.
Yeah. So it starts out black screen and then the text that says in 1994, three students, filmmaking students, went out into the woods, blah, 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 blah. This is the footage that was found, right? Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Cloverfield also does very similar where it has like the timestamp of
the camera,
and then we understand that this was found by the U.S. government. It has like an opening credit or opening text that says U.S. government classified Cloverfield project or something like that, right? So we're hinted that this was found footage. This is not it. We are never told that this is footage that was found after the incident that happened in Seattle or anything like that. Also, like the movie, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. The movie chooses to show us everything through someone's camera, whether that's Casey at times, right? The girlfriend, or most of the time through Andrew, or during the fight sequence, there's a bunch of different, he grabs a bunch of cameras and we're cutting through different cameras. I just think it's really unique that it wasn't pitched as footage was found, here's what happened, right? Rather, we are being guided through this story through the camera's point of view, whosever point of view that may be.
Yeah. This is something that I thought was, I was trying to think through this. I was trying to decide if I classified this as found footage. To me, I think this just was a stylistic choice.
Yeah.
Rather than a found footage. Like, I think for me, the idea was that, like, what if we just told a story through a perspective of a camera that was being used by someone who had superpowers, right? And again, at this time, like, and then embedding another character who plays a role for the B line, for the B story, that also has a camera, that for us to provide other context for different parts of that story. And I like, and more importantly, like that this is another character. The camera is another character.
Yes.
It's and the camera to a degree is us. Like we're the ones like getting to be a part of this story because it's not. It feels like we're just watching a home movie of Friends, right?
I like that. Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said, which I think also amplifies to some of the visceral reactions as we see Andrew descend into more of a villainous perspective, while at the same time feeling greater connection to these three individuals, these three musketeers who are finding connection, an unlikely connection with Steve and with Andrew, and a newfound connection with Matt and Andrew's character as they start to develop their powers.
This is what I wanted to talk about. Because I finished the movie. I usually try to watch this, like our movies, twice if I have time, which was interesting because I watched it, then I watched it again like a day later, and I struggled the second time, actually. I don't know why. I struggled with it, and I love the movie. I really do, but this is one of those first times where I watched the movie. We're gonna record an episode on it. I revisited.
What was it about the footage?
I don't know. I don't know if it was just the pacing or I maybe it was the pacing or just knowing what's coming because I had just barely watched it 24 hours earlier. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But maybe I felt like maybe the excitement of the found footage or the point of view of the camera, maybe that excitement had just kind of been taken away from me. But that's neither near nor here.
No. I think we need to talk about this.
Okay.
So you bring this because I didn't get to watch it a second time. I wanted to because I watched it once and I was like, this is phenomenal, and I wanted to watch it again before I did, but we had some other things going on. But I think your perspective of that, like you brings up an interesting thought. I actually don't think this is a very rewatchable. Like, sorry, this is not a movie that you can. It's a rewatchable in the sense of like, a regular watch. Like, oh, I'm gonna watch Pirates of the Caribbean during the summer because I love watching that movie during the summer. It just gets me the vibes going. For going on outdoorsy adventures or I don't know why that put that example. Or National Treasure,
or the people who who watch Harry Potter every Halloween, right?
So this is not a movie that's like that.
Yeah.
I mean, one, I think it's a heavier film. Whether it's intending, it's not heavy. It could be heavy for some.
Yeah.
Also, it's not. If you're watching it religiously, like I think the pacing would get off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of this is because you're anticipating
exactly
the next thing. Whereas like you watch it on a not regular basis, you're reminded, you're reminded of that surprise of, oh man, I forgot that they cut to this. Like they have a whole sequence, they find the rock, that gives them the powers, and they're, crazy stuff happens. And then next thing you know, you're looking at grass and they're throwing
balls at each other,
baseballs at each other, like classic dudes.
Classic teenagers. Yeah.
Like it just was like, oh, there's that. I think the other aspect is that this is, I mean, with found footage, it's something to be a little bit more, it feels more personal.
Yeah.
Like I shared, I think it's part of it is like the camera's another character and we're that camera, that character. More so than just a traditional film, which I think then it loses its like uniqueness. I think if you watch it on like a super regular basis.
Yeah. Because I think I've seen this like maybe 3-4 times, and I've always loved it every time. But I think like revisiting it so quickly, I was just like, oh, kind of.
You begin to want more.
Yeah, exactly. But going back to like the decision to make this quote unquote found footage, or just from the point of view of an individual with a camera, you said something that really strong or hit hard. It's just, it makes it such an intimate experience. And I'm talking like, because the movie it's dark and the themes presented are heavy subject matters, right? Of abuse, of neglect, of isolation, of like morality and whatnot. But like, there's the scene where he has the spider, right? And he has the camera floating. He picks up the spider, which is mine, spreads it, and then just, right, like just tears it apart. And again, this last time watching it, I asked myself, why make the decision to shoot this from a handheld point of view camera and not just a regular narrative style of filmmaking? Outside of the decision that this is low budget and maybe keep costs down, right? Why make that decision? And I think it's those moments where Andrew is alone.
Mm-hmm.
He is alone, and whether that's outside of the rave and he's crying, right? And the camera just happens to be on, or when he's testing it out or he just has it propped up above his desk and his dad comes in and smacks him.
Yeah.
Right. It's such an intimate experience for us as the viewers to be with him. And if you notice, the movie doesn't have a score, right?
No, yeah,
there's no sound, there's no music playing. It's silent. And so I love, again, the decision to use just a handheld camera for this. It creates this environment of intimacy, of making me feel like I'm a character in there, a fly on the wall, just watching. And at times, like, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And other times, right, when they're testing out their powers and they're flying, or they're at the store and goofing off, like, yeah, I'm having fun. But then there's those other times where I'm like, oh, kind of wanting to look away, right? And that is because they chose to make this from the point of view of the camera. And I think that's just genius.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do this with other superhero movies or other types of movies. It's very specific when to leverage the found footage style. And I think this movie does it phenomenally.
No, in fact, I would probably say that this movie is as good as it is because of the way they shot it. And I think that like the character in like we would feel the it would be a thing, but we would end up having more character art. Like we have a B storyline between Matt and Casey.
Yeah.
In this, that they had some sort of relationship of some kind, and Matt trying to be like cool, or trying to like say he's a grown up of some kind, that he's like doing whatever. But and then maybe trying to reconnect. In the sense that, in the fact that we need it's to help with the pacing.
Yeah.
But also to help emphasize that, like, as Steve leaves, Matt has somebody, and Andrew's
Andrew's back to being alone.
Back to being alone, right? And if you played this as a traditional film, you would have cut to Matt or even Steve and some of the struggles of their face, maybe something moments of them, like the girlfriend wanting to pester him. Why haven't you like got back to me? Like this tendency of wanting to like get other things that doesn't matter.
That's it. The things that doesn't matter. I think in a normal style of filmmaking or of shooting this movie, of narrative, we also as an audience would have been wanting to know, so what's the rock? Right? Because you would have a scene where the government comes in, helicopters fly in and try to hide everything or whatever it is, right? But because it's all from the camera, they didn't capture that. We don't know what happened prior nor after. It's right. We move on. We're okay.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, 100%. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk favorite movie or favorite scene. Sorry.
Okay, let's do it.
What's your favorite scene from this?
I think I have two. So I really enjoyed the flying sequence. I think that's just fun. Like it's just I mean, is it is it winning awards for CGI? No. But you know what? It's phenomenal that they did this film. I love that they're in coats. And more importantly, I think the biggest thing is that like we get to see growth between Steve and Andrew. And I think to me, that's some of the stuff that is really iconic. I think in that sequence, so the flying sequence and like the moments of them trying to like of Steve and Andrew and Andrew saving Steve.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. It's like I think this the camera being its thing emphasizes the fact that how it plays out, because that would have like I could easily see music happening, all of a sudden the plane comes through, music stops, and you're just free falling. You hear and they're like he's trying to get to him and like get, like go from there. But the fact that all you do is you don't know what happened and you don't know how he's like how things play. You just catch it and then you land.
Yeah.
And Steve just like like
flips out
because he's so grateful, but also like insane. And I completely love the line. And you got the camera too.
You got it on camera too. Yeah, that's right. That is a good scene.
So I think for me I think that was a really great scene. And then the other scene is actually not. It's not a favorite scene. It's a hard scene in the movie, but I think it's a really powerful scene. Is when it's set up and Kelly and DeHaan are sitting as Matt and Richard, and Richard's like angry at Andrew.
Oh, they're like in the basement. Yeah.
And like one, you're one, that Andrew has powers now. He's starting to indicate that he holds like the resentment is starting to take root in his heart.
I love that in that scene. If you don't watch it with subtitles, you probably miss it. But Michael's Richard, dad's getting mad at him, and Andrew says something of like, I'm buying this with my own money, Richard.
Oh,
he doesn't call him dad.
Yeah,
and I love that point that he's at this point, so much resentment and ill feeling towards his dad that he doesn't recognize him as his dad anymore.
Yeah,
to the point that he just calls him Richard.
Oh yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that makes it better. Yeah, because like that scene, because then he like not only that, but like it's like the first moment that solidifies it. Like Andrew is no longer. He's the protagonist. He's the like
He's the
he's not the one we should be rooting for.
yeah. Yeah.
Yet we want to root for him,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think I want to emphasize the fact that like this movie just re-emphasizes what Unbreakable with Elijah, the fact that like having a being sympathetic to the villain makes the villain so much stronger.
Yep. Yep. At the end of this month, and I want you to think about this over the next couple weeks.
Okay.
We're gonna come back and I'm gonna ask you, what have you learned about making a superhero movie not based on comic books?
Yeah.
What elements? Give me like 3-4 elements.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of building a couple ideas on my end.
Yeah.
But what are like the 2-3 elements that you've learned watching these 4 movies that
we'll talk about?
Yeah.
Hello. Okay.
My favorite scene, I just love the talent show. I love the talent show. It's such a like, it feels so quirky and like out of tone, but yet it goes well with the movie. And it's such a great tone. It's just such a great sequence to like have Steve and Andrew like playing off of each other and like doing all these tricks, and like it starts off kind of like, oh, is he going to like embarrass him? What's happening? And it's all just acted out. And it's also it's towards the end of the second act.
Yeah.
So it's again putting our character on a path where he becomes. And there's even the line that Matt says, like, look at your head, like the hubris, right? Like, is this going to be the downfall of Andrew or whatever, right? So like it puts him on this path that leads him to the party, that then leads him to his embarrassment, to the fight with Steve, to the death, and then we go right into the third act. I just think it's such a great way for me this last time to get us from the second act to the third act in a fun way, but in a very impactful way that continues to push forward the movie, which a lot of movies, this is just a very common like writing screenplay like challenge. How do we go from one act to the next, but like especially going from the second act to the third act, you need to have some kind of strong motivating factor that gets us to that climatic event. And I think this movie does it perfectly.
Dude, I don't think you could have said it better. I think the setup for it and the payoff, like we have we have a setup that feels so like if it just feels like not only natural, but like so exciting because Andrew has found someone who is caring about him, who is like encouraging him to like, hey, you're a normal person. You don't have to you don't have to restrict yourself. You are interesting. You are someone that's worth being friends with.
Yeah.
And Steve wants to depict that, right? I think that scene helps you solidify Steve as like he's a great wingman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But I think that the end of this, the start of, it then being triggered with the fact that he, hasn't had a lot of alcohol and is with a girl for the first time, gonna have sex, and like misses out on the opportunity and is like ashamed because Matt and Steve would have closed the deal,
so to speak, yeah.
Right, so to speak, and him, for him solidifying, I don't deserve this,
and also like right after that is when we have that scene that you just talked about, right? So where his dad then says like, I came across your camera. What did you see? Do you think these people are your friends? No. And so then having that reinforced to him that these aren't your friends. You're not as cool as them.
Right.
Like this isn't gonna last, right? It's it just hits. It's
Yeah.
perfect. Great stuff. We didn't talk about like the third act, the fight sequence, and and that's okay because I think
We
like
can talk about it a little bit. I think I think we should actually.
Go ahead.
Let's
let's jump into it.
To me, I wanted to know what was your experience like seeing that third act in theaters and like after the fact experiencing it overall.
I think the first time I watched it, my thoughts were like, oh, like it's the flying, the CGI, like it feels kind of wonky. It also felt very fast, right? And I don't know if it's just we're running out of budget or whatnot. I also I think I've shared this before. I love a good movie that's just an hour and a half. Like
Marcel indeed loves a movie that's a good hour and a half.
like I hit play and I'm like an hour and a half, perfect, just what I needed.
That's exactly my wind down time. And if I started right now, I will be asleep in the middle of the credits.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the first time I watched it in theaters, I was just like, it's fine. I think as I've watched it over the years, I'm just like, it's great. It's great for what this movie is. And this movie was never meant to be. Again, this is came out in 2012. We had Avengers in 2012, right? The big, was it 2012?
No, Avengers or
First Avengers, yeah, right?
was it
Yeah, May 4th, 2012.
May 4th?
So like, I think that again, that first time was just like, oh, there's no big action sequence, or like it didn't feel like it landed. As I've watched it over the years, I'm just like, that's not what this movie's about.
No,
And like, yeah, it gives us that action sequence at the end, but it's not very long from the moment like he.
I actually thought it was. I didn't feel like it was long, but I felt like it was just the right amount of.
Yeah, it was very succinct.
Yeah.
To the point. It got us where we needed to. It showed us Andrew in this state of rage, of anger, willing to just kill his dad, and for Matt to come in and kind of quote unquote save the day by killing him, right? I think I'm always just kind of it always hits hard. I always forget that that's how he dies, with the big old spear just coming right through him.
Yeah, actually, so I actually really, I think I mean, this is only watched it once, so there's this, but my initial impression of the last act and the culmination of the fight scene is actually really good. I felt, for me, I'm like, one, for a little bit, I was like, why have Matt's character with Casey dealing with some of this? But I think that it pays off in this final portion of the third act and in this thing, because we see security camera footage,
Right,
of the
hospital.
and the camera's been set up. Andrew's camera's been set up to get another profile, right? And we hear his freaking Richard being completely trashing his father or his own son,
Dick of a human being.
and like smashing him even more so for what's happened. Even though, like, we're sympathizing with this character who has just had like, why did he get in the hospital in the first place?
See, he went to go rob a convenience store.
Oh, that's right.
And as he's leaving, the guy comes out with a shotgun. He deflects and
it explodes.
And it explodes.
Right. So, but I mean, like, he's already fallen down the path, right?
Yeah.
Yet we are sympathizing with him because we just like, he's being demoralized yet again by a person that should love him, right? And so then it cutting to Matt and realizing there's something wrong and having that whole sequence is honestly would be really traumatic. Like, in as an individual coming in and not realizing things that are happening, that you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And like, to me, but emphasize the fact that, like, this was never about the powers, but it was about being neglected and abuse and being alone.
Yeah.
And friendship.
And friendship, yeah. I love the decision to not have a lot of dialogue during that sequence.
Yeah.
You know, again, going back to like Avengers, and I'm thinking of the first Thor movie, where uh, at some point Loki is has this dialogue or monologue with his dad, where he's like, you know, I should have been ruler, and he goes to justify and explain and monologue his reason as to why he's doing what he's doing, right? We don't get that here. Like, it could have been very easy for Matt to be like, why are you? Matt tries to talk to him, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like, dude, like, what's going on? Like, let's have this conversation, right? But there is no monologue from Andrew to say like, you left me, or I, you know, you were never my friend, or whatever. Like, there is nothing like that. It's just him in a state of rage,
Yeah.
right? Like, he has fallen, and he's gone on this path. He's where Anakin was at a point of just killing the younglings in the Jedi Temple. Like, he's just, there's no reasoning at this point. There's no reasoning with him at this point. And so I love that decision that we didn't have this sequence of him explaining.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, Andrew even says like, "Why did you save him?"
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
and to him, it's not about the reason. He just like, I wanted him dead for like it was like you took something yet again from like something away from me that I thought I could have.
Yep.
Which then depicts the thing. But on the flip side, I like that Matt was left to not be able to even feel like he can to reason, that he felt the only thing he could do
Was just to take him out.
was to end his family, like his Andrew's life.
Yeah.
Right. And that, like, to me, like, this is not a movie about Matt, but to me is even a bigger, like is a just like Unbreakable, where Bruce Bruce Willis's character has to like fight and take that step of heroic feat to, like, you know, solidify his nature. Matt does this, but it's not about being a hero. It's just that he realizes, because of what he's decided, because of the things that Andrew has done and the things that have happened, that like there should be lines that be placed. Like, you know, the great power comes great responsibilities, right? This idea that he feels that, like, between the three, like, if Steve was there, maybe something could have happened, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't love the fact that they finished the whole movie with just him trying to pay respect to him.
Yeah. It's, I love it because, again, they did build this relationship, and there is some symbiotic connection between the three of them, right? Where they feel each other when one is in danger or
something, you know,
some kind of emotional distress, right? So I love that. I actually love that final scene of just him having the camera. We made it to Tibet. I'm gonna promise I'm gonna do good and whatnot, right? So good. What a great movie, right?
Dude, it's fun.
It's so good.
I'm like, I truly am grateful that we're like, let's look, and not only that, but like how much I appreciate like the people who are trying to create or tell stories that aren't based on other IP. That, like, we need more of individuals trying to tell other stories about superhero, whether that be in comic books or in other mediums, formats, new heroes journey, or heroes and characters, so that we can find other, connect with those individuals, find growth within ourselves, right? This is not one, I don't know if I don't think this will be a movie I will like religiously watch, but I'm like, what's a movie that like just be a good time?
Yeah,
let's throw up and let's go. Or like, hey, what you got any good recommendation or a good movie? Have you watched Chronicle?
Throw it in.
Yeah. I think it's a great one to just watch if you never watched it.
Last thing I want to point out, this had a budget of $12 million. Okay.
Phenomenal job for the budget.
Gross worldwide, 126,636,000.
Let's go.
Why there was no sequel? That's a whole episode on its own.
You know why?
Yeah. Yeah, there was lots of conversation as to why they wanted to make a sequel. Obviously, the numbers tell us this should have had a sequel, right? Josh Trank, after this, the director, was just a hot commodity. He had options to do whatever. He was actually the one that was supposed to direct the Boba Fett movie. Okay, because originally Boba Fett, they were going to do a Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
And he had been tapped to do that. And he was going to write that. And then that got switched out to the series instead. But instead, he had options to do whatever he wanted. He was going to do Boba Fett. And then he ended up doing Fantastic Four, which was... He had a bit of a breakdown on set, and the studio got involved, and very chopped up movie. Well, maybe one day we'll watch that.
I don't think I've actually ever finished it.
Oh, really?
I've started it several times.
I've seen it twice. Once in theaters.
Yeah.
At the Dollar Theater back when we had it.
We need to make specification.
Yeah, because I did not pay full price for this. And then I saw a cut like 2 years ago when it got added to Disney Plus. I was like, is this really that bad? And it starts out great.
It does start out great.
Like, I actually enjoy it, but then it's that like second act where it's the middle of the second act that it's like, oh, this is just like chopped up, like you feel it. And then Max Landis, he got accused. He was accused of like horrible misconduct on set by multiple women in other movies, and so his career kind of came to a halt. He's been writing TV shows and done other stuff. So Max had the story. The story was going to be that two teenagers kind of create like a Iron Man-esque costume or suit and try to find Matt to take him out because of everything that happened in Seattle. But it did, yeah.
I mean,
a lot of things that kind of got in the way to not having a sequel.
I could, they could at some point, maybe somebody comes in and they just try to do a sequel sometime later. I hope they don't, honestly. I think they should just leave it.
I hope they don't. And I think again, we talked about Unbreakable. If Glass taught us anything, is that in this movie landscape, it is very hard now to do a superhero movie that is not a comic book movie. I think it's too late to do a sequel now.
Yeah. You think that is it? If Glass had been released early, closer to Unbreakable, like if they did
split and
then Unbreakable in, let's say, like 4 years time frame, right?
Yeah.
So a year for the next one, and then they released it, and then for the next one. Do you think that would have played out better overall, or is the third story not weak? Is it
the third story is weak? But I do think I do feel like they did that. They did split. They added that last final scene to tie it to Unbreakable, and then the studio was like, well, we gotta compete with the Marvel and DC world, so give us a third one, right? And that was rushed. And you can feel it in the story and the script. I think something like this would not do good today.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, what was the last non-superhero movie, non-comic book superhero movie to come out? Glass?
Yeah, I was trying to think if there's something from Netflix or something. If Netflix, one of the Netflix films had a film that was superhero big. What's that one? What was that? What's the
theatrical
one that
release though?
wasn't there one with like a kid that was supposed to be like a Superman, but he becomes evil?
Yeah.
Burn.
Saltburn.
No, that's the dude. No, that movie.
Brightburn.
Brightburn.
I was gonna suggest we do that one. I've never seen it. That's a James Gunn written and produced movie.
James Gunn wrote that?
Yep.
Man, it makes me want to actually watch it. I did not want to watch that at all.
No?
No, I haven't. Part of me is like, I kind of love Superman, like the ideal of Superman, and like, and just going in and taking it down like this evil route. I don't know. It didn't feel right to me.
It
But I know there's people who really enjoy it.
I mean, it did okay. It was produced by James Gunn, but his brothers Brian and Mark were the ones that wrote it. But he produced it. But there's a, I haven't seen it. I'm told. Listeners, feel free to correct me, but I'm told there's like during the credit scenes, they hint at basically like Justice League counterparts that have gone evil throughout the whole credits. But anyways, yeah. So that came out 2019, which is when Glass came out as well.
Oh, there's yeah. I'm like trying to think of like.
Yeah, 2019 Glass. I just feel like we haven't had a non-comic book superhero story in like 5 years.
Code 8? That's a movie that just got its second part on Netflix.
Oh, that's with the two brothers, right?
Yeah, with the Bell brothers.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the second part, but I like the first one.
Of Code 8?
Yeah. It's pretty decent.
I'll check it out.
Thank you, bro, for letting me introduce me to this
glad
film.
You like this.
It truly was right. You're 2 for 2. Let's hopefully we'll keep the ball rolling next month with some other new movies, or I can start get you some. Other than that, we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed talking about it, and we'd love it if you subscribed on whatever platform you get your podcast. And while you're there, be sure to leave a review so we can be informed on how to make the show better, and so that other people can find it.
More importantly, what did you think of Chronicle? Is this your first time? Have you seen this multiple times? What are some of the thoughts that you have? You can always connect with us on social at Real Chumps, or email us at your@realchums.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Marstrosity, MARCTROSITY.
And me at Rubio_TV. Join us next week as we continue our month-long discussions of superhero movies that are not based on comic books with The Incredibles.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I'm excited to talk about this. See you in the next one.
Later.